You're listening to Heroes in the Moment.
What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
Today, Tales of the Jedi.
I'm so stoked, man.
And must I say,
Holy.
just a little clap
Yeah.
for Tales on the Jedi and Dave Filoni because, wow.
Yeah.
Initial reactions right off the bat, wow.
Dude, I'm blown away, to be honest.
I was definitely
Truly.
blown away. Like, I knew it would be good.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it would be. But I didn't think it'd be as good as it was.
No, listen, man, I totally agree. And to be honest, I was expecting, Count Dooku's story to go crazy, right?
Right,
Because we
for
haven't
sure.
seen that much of him when he was younger.
For
On
sure.
the other
We haven't
hand,
seen anything of him.
we've seen a lot of Ahsoka. I was
Right.
not expecting her episodes to go as
Dude.
far as I did either.
I mean,
Crazy.
Dooku's arc was phenomenal, but Ahsoka's arc was phenomenal too.
Yeah.
And that's what was amazing about the storytelling.
There are
from
no
everything.
fillers.
Like the theme.
crazy.
Like I think the Tales of the Jedi did really well is the themes that it pulled off.
Yeah.
Like just
You can
every,
name an individual theme
for sure.
each episode.
For sure. And each episode had a different meaning and a different thing that can be applied not only into the Star Wars universe, but your own life.
Yeah.
And that was amazing to me. Like the storytelling was amazing. The music was the music. I could
was good.
have a whole podcast just talking about the music, how beautiful it was. But it does and I just want to highlight, it did such a great job in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, they're working with anywhere from I think 12 to 16 after you include.
Well, they had 18 episodes, but still, yeah, that was the longest.
They had 2 to 3 minutes of credits. Like
Yeah.
it was a while. So I think literally the longest screen time, that was about 15, 16 minutes.
But
honestly.
then again, if you put all three arcs together, then you have two shorts, pretty much 1 hour shows. So, that's pretty good, as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, phenomenal. Everything about it I loved, and of course Dave Filoni. I mean, literally, you see he did everything pretty much.
Yeah.
So that was very, very great, and
Shout
of
out.
course the voice talent on all of this
It
was
was
amazing
crazy.
as well. And we'll talk about that and stuff. But right off the bat, what we're gonna do for this particular episode is, we're gonna review, we're gonna break it down, we're gonna talk about
Yeah.
it. But we're gonna break down Dooku's arc first.
Okay.
We're gonna do Ahsoka's arc next,
Respect.
and then
Respect.
we're going to rank the episodes
Okay.
from our favorite to least favorite and such. But
Aight.
I enjoyed them all,
Yeah.
so and then we're going to rank it out of 10 in the end.
All right.
That's how it's gonna
Sounds
go. It's a little
Gucci.
bit of a heads up breakdown for you guys.
Mm.
So to get in right off the bat, Dooku's arc.
Yeah. Listen, man. I tell all y'all, Dooku's always been my favorite Star Wars character.
Mhm.
And it starts off with this first episode. We can see him as a Jedi.
Yeah.
Not only as a Jedi, but with his Padawan.
But with a Padawan and
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon Jinn. This is
Amazing, dude.
Amazing.
Amazing.
The episode 2, of course, is titled Justice. And then we still don't really know why there was an episode 1 Ahsoka episode, and then it goes into 3 is Dooku's, and then 2 more Ahsoka's.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did
like
that.
we said,
but-
I think it's chronological because if you look at it, Ahsoka's episode 2 takes place during, the end of Order 66, whereas all of Dooku's take place before or during Phantom Menace.
Right.
So I guess technically the timeline works. I really do wish they just would have done Ahsoka 1, 2, 3, Dooku 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
To split it up a little bit.
I agree, but I don't know why they necessarily did that, but it's not really that
Yeah.
big of a deal. So, but anyway, all right. So of course, episode 2 is titled Justice, and of course, like you said, we get to see the younger version of a Jedi Knight, Dooku.
Yeah.
He wasn't a master; he was just a Jedi Knight, along with his Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn, of course. And also, interesting enough, the Padawan version of Qui-Gon Jinn was voiced by Liam Neeson's son.
Really?
So that was cool.
Are you for real?
Yeah. So that's
Dude, I was
really
like,
cool.
this sounds like him, but I don't think it's him.
That's
his son?
That was his son
No
that voiced him.
way.
So that's really cool as well. A little nod there. So this episode was actually, it was really good.
Yeah.
You go into a mission.
Liam Neeson was trying to find somebody who had been taken.
Mm. That's true.
Think about
A younger
that for
version.
a second.
Yeah, that's
Think
true.
about that.
That's true.
We could have got another movie in
You
that.
could get 4. Taking number 4. Bring it on.
Imagine, dude.
Nathan Mogger to direct, I guess. All right.
That'd be terrible.
Be dark. All right.
Yeah, it truly would.
Next up. All right. So, of course, we get into a mission between Dooku and Qui-Gon, who are sent to this world to kind of mediate and
Yeah.
find a senator's son who is, kidnapped by these people. And they land on this world and they see it's very it reminds me of a lot of Great Depression era.
Yeah, there's just nothing there. There's no
nothing.
Resources. People are hungry.
People are starving. People
Thirsty.
are desperate. And everything
it's
else.
not a good situation.
Not a good situation. And, of course, Dooku's walking around and you can see in, Dooku's face, his trouble right? You can see like, they're suffering and like, what are we doing about it? What is, my
Yeah.
people on Coruscant doing about it?
Very clearly, the show it depicts Dooku as a man with great convictions.
Yes,
Like he
yes.
truly wants to bring peace and order. And like I said, the episode is titled Justice.
Right.
Like Dooku sees justice as like black and white, and he sees wrongs and rights as they happen. And throughout this episode, you really get to empathize with Dooku. Like you're on his side,
Right.
even though
throughout
the methods he's taking aren't
all
great.
of the episodes really, and it does a great job because you see Dooku like he's a good guy, but
Yeah.
he's just seeing all of this
You just-
deceitfulness.
Yeah, he was pushed too hard by what he saw, and he ended up taking the wrong path to combat
Right,
it.
right.
Whereas people
Continuously.
like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka even,
Ahsoka,
they didn't.
They go to a different path
Yeah.
when dealing with this kind of controversy and stuff. But what I loved about this episode is, of course, it deals not only with you see suffering in other other worlds, but it also deals with the political nature of the world at hand. I mean, this is before even the Clone Wars, before the Separatists. So
Wow.
you see the political nature of the world even before a time of war and the corruptness of the Senate, and then Dooku seeing that deceitfulness of the Senate, and then having that emotion that translated so well. And of course, I don't know who voice acted Dooku, but he did really well.
Yeah.
And not only that, but just the way they captured him in this episode, the animators and stuff, displaying his heartfelt, like,
Yeah.
just definitely like fear, not just fear, but like anger and anguish because the fact that he's working for an organization that's corrupt.
Yeah.
And he's starting to feel
Yeah,
that.
and he feels betrayed, Like I said, he is disgusted, right? He sees this leader and his guards, and they're they're well fed, they're living
Right.
in luxury. But at the same time, this this leader of this planet, he's totally abandoning his own people on some parts. And clearly, like they work, for the council, who works, for the Senate.
Right.
Like it's just all one
And-
big shebang,
right.
and they support it too.
And
clearly,
this
so
senator,
he's struggling with
who
that.
is, this senator who's horrible, is from
He's
this planet. He was
terrible, man.
elected by these people to help them, and he ended up, of course, going off and running with the rich, and instead of helping them out. And of course, you see that displayed. And of course, Dooku,
Yeah.
you see his rage at this moment. They have a little blaster battle. You see, of course, his blue lightsaber that he has. Which makes sense because he's a duelist. Gotta
Yeah.
have the blue.
I was so hyped as a kid, man. I always thought blue was the coolest, and I
Right.
had hoped that he had a blue lightsaber. But yes, he does. Indeed.
He does have that blue, and of course, with Qui-Gon's green because he's more forcey.
Yeah.
He's more into
He's
the
one
Force.
with it.
And then, of course, you see Dooku perform the Force choke as a Jedi, as a younger
Crazy,
Jedi.
dude.
Like
He went
anger,
crazy
right?
on
And of
him.
course, Qui-Gon holds him back. He's like, "You cannot do this. This is not right. This is not the way."
Yeah.
And even though Qui-Gon doesn't agree with a lot of the methods, he still knows what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And he knew that was wrong, and that was wrong. Dooku didn't need to do that, but however, just showing how angry he got and showing that he's already falling into the trifecta, or I guess the four things that, of course, Grandmaster Yoda says, of course, of fear, anger, hatred, and then, of course, later suffering. And then we
Yeah.
see that in each episode. You see kind of that fear of what's going to happen in the Senate. The next episode, you see the anger of what's going on in the council, and then, of course, the final episode, you get the hatred for everything else. So it was really cool build up in those three episodes. Of storytelling.
Like I said, that build up in this episode, I mean, leading up to, the part where he starts choking the senator, he's looking around, and he's playing really defensive, just, deflecting it. But you see all the civilians behind him are just dropping down. Like almost everybody dies, like behind him, you know? And then even Qui-Gon, he's being defensive, but Dooku decides to take the matters in his own hands. But you can just see in his eyes, like he's trying to protect these people. And like
he
the
cares.
Way, and he truly does. And the way he sees out of it, he snaps in his anger.
Right.
And he goes brazy.
He goes
like,
hard.
Dude,
he does for sure.
Wipes him out, force push him. He almost kills the dude, which, to be honest,
he would have if Qui-Gon wasn't there.
I would not have minded, but like I said, man, they write him so well. You don't agree with his methods, but man, you agree with his ideas.
Right. In a way, of course. When it comes to the Senate, yes, but when it comes to the Jedi Council, he can be a little bit too out there when it comes to rules, but that's okay. All right, so that was episode 2. Very good justice, and of course that was proven. You see that theme of deceit in the Senate, and of course that translates over to episode 3.
Fire.
So episode 3, we get which is called titled Choices. And we see Dooku's beard get a little bit, he gets a beard
clearly,
now.
maybe like 5-10 years down the road.
I don't know if Dooku ever became a master. I don't know if that was ever established.
I don't know, to be honest.
They said that because he never was a seat on the council. He did want it, but he didn't get it.
That's right. They talked about that in his third
And they
episode.
talk about that. And again, there's so many parallels between Dooku and Anakin that they established.
Dude, yeah, bro.
So
especially
much.
in the last episode.
Oh,
man.
yeah, which we'll talk about.
Oh, my goodness.
Even more, but even in this episode, of course. And then we see, of course, another mission with, of course, Dooku. And then we have Mace Windu joining him on this mission. And this is even before Jason Windu was on the council.
Yeah.
And, of course, we know later he runs it.
Yeah.
And he was just a knight at this time, which is a little bit crazy because I figured he would have been a little bit higher than that, knowing that he becomes the second in command in like that short amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what year this was and how many years before Phantom Menace, though.
I mean, I would guess anywhere between, I would say about 10 years, to be honest.
Before Phantom Menace?
Yeah, there's a pretty clear change in his hair and his facial hair, all that mess. I don't know. I'd probably say about, 5 years, 6 years between each episode. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, then we see them go on to a mission, and their mission was to grab the body of a Jedi who had sadly died.
Master Katri.
Yes, a Jedi we'd never heard of.
Right, yeah, we never heard of, and
because they were dead a long time ago.
Yeah, she was sent there, to keep peace or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is, of course, before the Clone Wars and before they became battle generals. Their job was peace. They're anchors of peace. Their job was to keep the peace in the galaxy, and of course, do what the Senate says in some cases. But of course, this falls into this episode was kind of last episode more deceitfulness of the Senate, but this one is more not necessarily deceitfulness of the Jedi Council, but the kind of too headstrong rules and regulations of the council.
Yeah,
to where you see like not corrupt because they're not corrupt.
Yeah,
they're going about certain methods in the wrong way.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that falls through the cracks.
Right.
Like I said, we see Obi-Wan deal with that, the entire Clone Wars, man. You get to see a pretty clear perspective from him. But you got to see the same from Dooku. I don't know, this was just really interesting to me because the whole time you see Mace Windu, trying to kind of, wrap it up and bring the peace. But Dooku, will not stop. Like, he is determined.
He's determined to find out why
really
this person... I mean, because this could have been a friend. This could have been somebody... he wants to find out and investigate what happened. Even though, Windu, which they did a great job with Mace Windu in this episode, displaying how he is. He's by the book. He wants to run everything...
to the max.
He wants to run everything by the council. And he's like, we can't do this yet. We got to do the council. I agree, but we got to, talk to the council before we can proceed. Which technically, he's right, but at the same time, when you're there and you have evidence, pursue it. It
honestly looked like Dooku was kind of like the leading dude, to be honest.
And this,
Mace, Windu, he's a rule dude, and obviously Dooku isn't.
Right.
But he was just following Dooku the whole time.
That is true, but also I feel like in a lot of senses they were more even because if Dooku was above him, and I feel like Dooku's older, obviously, so. In a sense, he was above him.
Yeah,
but then again,
a little bit, maybe.
Eventually, of course, because of what Windu does, he grabs the seat on the council that Dooku was supposed to have.
And then that only makes things worse.
And that makes things worse. Yeah. Again, another parallel to Anakin, who wanted that council seat, got it, but did not get the rank of masters. So, translates over Dooku didn't even get the council seat. Further deceit, further anger, further frustration that we see the build up. But that was, episode 3 is also very good in showing in the Senate and how that was corrupt still. You had them, but his guards, they were trying to get rid of him and his guards killed the Jedi. And of course, you see more of Dooku's anger of the situation. He's like seeing more of the corruptness. He's like, what's going on in this galaxy? Like, why aren't we doing anything? Why are we, as Jedi, what is going on? We shouldn't be following these idiots, and essentially. Which I thought was really cool.
And like you said, this episode was pretty similar to the first one as far as, the leadership
it was very
of the
similar,
planet.
but it gave more build up.
The guards killed, their leader and the master because their leader had, turned their back on them, just like in the first episode. And Dooku sees that. It's like almost the same exact instance.
Right.
And I'll see he takes kind of almost the same measures. Like if Dooku wasn't there, if Windu wasn't there,
he would have gone far.
Yeah, what have Dooku done?
And he did kill a guard. I mean, accidentally because he shot him.
And then he blocked
the ricochet. But
I mean, you. I know they killed the Jedi, but you feel bad too, for the guards,
right?
Like they were doing what they thought was
to
best,
help their people,
trying to protect their people,
right?
Their planet. And Dooku, he agrees with them, and he tells the guard that in his cell, and Windu's standing right there. But he's like, I don't condone your methods, but it's like you had every right to
You had
defend
every
your
right.
planet.
Mhm.
I was like, they're doing
Yeah.
such a good job.
Such a good job with the build up.
making
Such
him
a good
relatable
job,
character.
making Dooku. And also you see the relations, of course, after this episode, you kind of see, Dooku goes in more of a dormant hatred of the things going around. He doesn't
Yeah.
show it, but he has it internally. But it also builds up to his reasoning of starting the Separatists against the Republic.
Yeah.
It shows that, why he wants, there to be separation. And even though the Separatists are evil and horrible, it shows makes you understand more why he did what
Yeah.
he did. Because the Senate and the Republic isn't all that good.
No, like truly, and definitely the big thing for this one is it was like don't follow blindly, for no reason. Like that's
Right.
gonna be like to be the big theme.
Right.
Like he mentioned multiple times, like we're just doing all this stuff. No matter what they say, he's like, don't you ever question it?
Uh-huh.
Like in the
Right.
first episode, he's hurt by the Senate. This time, now he distrusts the Jedi Council, because of the decisions, the choices that they made recently, especially with Master Katri and her death and all that junk. He's
Right.
like, listen, man, we can't just be doing this. And of course, Mace Windu on the opposite end is like, nah, trust. So it was cool to see that, that dynamic between their
Right.
two ideologies.
For sure. And it was so well done, very good, and enjoyable.
That fight scene too.
And the fight scene.
Him and Mace Windu just at the
yes.
same time, man, that was crazy.
That was cool. And also, I just have to point out, because it just reminded me of this, because it was so cool, is when he cuts the tree and the lightsaber does that dope force move.
Bro,
with
he
the tree.
pushes a tree.
Dude, that
on
was so
people.
cool. Like, he literally does like one swing move of the tree, like lightsaber through the tree, and then pushes
It
the
pushes
tree
the
into
tree.
the people. I was like, dude, that was so sick.
I know. Well, also when you think about it, it was them back to back, but they had a whole circle
Yeah.
of guards around them. We see that obviously with Ahsoka in her second episode,
Right.
But that part was crazy.
That was so good.
Ah,
Oh man, I
episode
love
went
that.
hard,
So yeah.
man. I love
All
that
right,
one.
and then we got to transition over to episode 4,
Mm.
which is titled "The Sith Lord."
It was,
Dude, this
oh my-
episode,
dude,
man.
I'm getting goosebumps.
I
thinking about
cried.
this one.
I legitimately cried at a certain part. You probably know what part I'm
Yeah.
talking about. But man, dude.
I'm getting goosebumps. I truly am.
Dude.
This hit harder possibly than maybe besides like the finale of like Clone Wars,
Mhm.
like
It's up there.
harder than like almost anything else.
It was
in
up
this
there.
Style.
It was up there
It
for
was
sure.
amazing.
It was
man.
so amazing. And from everything, like everything about this episode, down to the T, down to the writing, down to everything, fit perfectly.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even exaggerating, perfectly.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the epitome of a perfect episode. This episode
Yeah.
has no flaws.
I know this, man. I
Um,
agree.
So like
we
it's
got
really
so we
amazing.
got to recap.
We got to recap. We got to talk about
We
it.
gotta
So,
talk
of course,
about
it
it.
starts up right off the bat. This episode takes place during and after Phantom Menace, which is
Yeah.
super cool because, there was always that question of, we always thought that Dooku, and from other, legends and, other theories, that Dooku was still a Jedi during the
Yeah.
time of the Phantom Menace. But this was the official confirmation. He hasn't, descended yet, which was great to know. But right off the bat, we see Palpatine apparently has already started to manipulate Dooku right off in the beginning, because we see him go into the Jedi Temple and delete the Camino database.
I had wondered like how that had worked for so long.
Right. Completely deleted the cloning
Dooku
factory
covers.
file.
So Sifo Dyas goes to Camino, right?
Right.
And he puts the plan
clone
in.
into action. Yeah.
And he was under orders from the council.
The Senate. Well,
from
he was not under. He said he was under the orders of the council. They had no idea about it, but he was under orders from the Senate. But more specifically, Palpatine. However, Sifo Dyas, of course, did not know the
Yeah,
why.
we know why. And then
Right. And then, of course, he dies.
Dooku slips in there. First of all, they never explained how he had Sifo Dyas's like login information.
Login
Like
information.
he types it in, and he like
Right.
Master
Hey, that's
Diaz,
another thing for
Sifo
another time.
Dyas.
So,
Like honestly,
right.
like, I know he just didn't take his fingerprint,
Right. So I don't know, but I
he
mean,
deletes
Palpatine
that
knows his stuff.
mess,
Probably
man.
get to him. He deletes
I
it.
did not know
Obviously,
that.
shows, of course, it made Attack of the Clones really cooler, a lot cooler, because you see why. Obi-Wan, there was no existence of Camino, and then
Yeah.
of course Jacasa's like, it doesn't exist, even though he just deleted it right in front of your face. but no,
How you not see that?
he had to go over my guy Dexter, whatever his name was, arm dude.
Yeah,
but anyway,
legend, man,
legend,
The
man,
legend.
for sure. And then of course we see that, so that was really cool to see because we knew he did it, but we didn't know
Yeah, we
how
never
he went
really
about
seen
and
it.
stuff.
That was one of the coolest parts. to
It
be
was one of the
honest.
coolest parts, and not only
A
that,
dope
is
insight.
it literally paved the way to the massacre of the Jedi, and he didn't even realize it at the time. That's what's crazy. He
Honestly,
paved that way.
man, if he had known that at that time, we clearly know he wouldn't have done it.
No, he wouldn't have.
Like I said, he was being manipulated, and he thought he was doing the
Now
right
later,
thing.
he did know what it was.
Yeah.
So he was like, at that time he was full Sith.
Yeah, by
so
that time, he had gone crazy.
He all dark. So he didn't really care at that point. He's like, kill them all. But now at this point, yeah, he just deletes it after being manipulated. Similar to Anakin, again, another Anakin parallel. Palpatine's already in Dooku's ear. He knows what's happening with Maul. He doesn't have much trust in Maul. Dooku's like, okay, I can feel Dooku. Maybe he can be my new protege.
My
even
new
though,
homie.
Right.
You know, I'm feeling like this boy might get cut in half.
Right.
But
Right.
still survive.
Yeah, he does. And is one of the best Star Wars villains because of that.
He's great.
But Dooku, and then, of course, continues emulation. So that was really cool to see that parallel between, of course, Dooku and Anakin and the other Sith Lords that Palpatine takes under his wing. So that's really cool to see. And then next up, we see the Jedi Temple and everybody buzzing around about how Qui-Gon Jinn had encountered a Sith Lord on Tatooine, obviously referring to the scene in Phantom Menace when he fights Darth Maul on Tatooine briefly.
That was crazy.
It was
cool
to
see their personal reactions.
And see the
and this
repercussions
angered me too because Dooku, obviously as his master, instantly believes it. He's like, I believe it, And then it's just sad to see everyone around like just doubt.
The doubt,
like their
Qui-Gon
eyes are just shut. Like,
well, to be fair, there has been like no trace of the Sith for like however many years, like probably a couple 100 years.
Yeah.
So for that, I mean, that's a big claim after, so long. And then seeing that Sith Lord, obviously, he was telling the truth. But Dooku right off the bat, he's like, I believe in my Padawan. And what I loved about this too is we truly and genuinely see that Dooku loved Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Like would do anything for Qui-Gon, legitimately. And I loved that. Like, I just loved, of course, in the Jedi way, you're not supposed to have that love, not supposed to have the relation, which also, again, is another parallel to Anakin and Ahsoka, because Anakin pours so much love into Ahsoka, and then, of course, Anakin falls into that deceit, and then Dooku puts so much love into Qui-Gon, and, of course, because of some other things,
it's so sad, man. They just kept on hating on all his, his good, his truly human qualities.
He was, and then, of course, he gets that stripped away by Palpatine, as we see later.
Man, I just wish more people would have believed him. I know.
Man. I know. We've done more stuff. But then, of course, we see Qui-Gon come back, into the Jedi Temple and talk. This one was voiced by Liam Neeson.
No way.
Himself. So that was awesome.
I was going crazy when I heard it.
It was great. He was talking. He's like, talking about his interaction with Darth Maul and the Sith Lord and his progress. And he's like, Dooku's like, I believe you, keep doing your doing. They talk about Obi-Wan. He's like, you should meet Obi-Wan sometime. He's great. He's very talented.
That was crazy.
And it was so good because Dooku's
so
like,
crazy.
I would love to meet him sometime. And it was great too because he doesn't meet him until Attack of the Clones and he takes him prisoner.
Really?
So that's
Is
cool.
that the
yeah,
first
that's
time?
the first time that they meet.
Huh.
So that's what's really cool, the translation, and of course they meet many more times after that.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of like similar in Clone Wars. The fact that General Grievous and Anakin never met throughout the entire Clone Wars series because he doesn't meet him until Revenge of the Sith. So
Wait,
that
for
was really
real?
cool. Yeah, they never meet. They
met
never
in Clone
interact
Wars?
in the entire Clone Wars just because of the fact that that in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin goes, "You're taller than I expected." That was really good writing, man.
No way.
In all of those arcs.
I've never caught that.
Yeah,
if I'm
all
being
those
honest.
arcs. That was really cool. So that was really great to see. Of course, Qui-Gon goes off, and then it shows the Sith Lord title, and then this is the part that made me cry. We see Dooku standing out by a tree, and at this point, I'm not really thinking anything.
You
of
have
it.
no idea that there's been a time jump.
No idea.
As
I
far
was
as
just
you know,
thought he
it's
was
the
just
next
sitting beside me.
Dude, I rewinded it because I wasn't sure what was happening
Yeah,
at first.
dude. Yeah, I mean, he's talking about Qui-Gon always loved this tree because he was raised on Coruscant. Also, cool knowledge. No, Qui-Gon was born and raised on Coruscant. Did not know that.
Yeah.
Did not know that. So he was always fascinated with this tree because there's no, it's Coruscant.
There's no trees on Coruscant,
which is depressing. I must say.
I couldn't live there.
And then, of course, it transitions to Yaddle behind him going, the funeral is soon on Naboo, the Jedi Council. And then that just hit me. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
He's dead now.
My mind started making up every excuse as to who it could be besides. My mind was like, dude, no, that has to be somebody else. That has to be Padme. I was like, you idiot. He's still a Jedi. I was like, no, it can't be, man.
Right. And it was so sad. And then, of course, seeing that more love. And that I think that was the moment. Similar to, I guess, I'm trying to just, think of a parallel between Anakin. I guess the best parallel I can think of is, him thinking Padme's going to die.
Yeah.
Is the best parallel I can think, even though she does later. And then, of course, becomes Vader because he wants to save Padme.
Yeah.
In this case, Qui-Gon's already dead. He can't save him. but Dooku can do something about it that can avenge him in a sense.
Yeah, I mean that was truly the moment. I think he had
That
already
was
been
the
with
moment.
Palpatine,
Right, and
I mean, and
started to
obviously,
be manipulated.
Yaddle says it later, like, and the reason why, man, like she says later, Qui-Gon didn't have to die. He
No.
was so angered at the hypocrisy at the Jedi,
Right.
and just all the bull crap that that they stand for. That like one of the only people like he loved truly
Mm-hmm.
got murdered by a person they didn't believe existed,
Exactly.
despite his testimony.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
I mean, like, honestly, if you put yourself into that same perspective, man, I'm not saying that you would go completely evil and kill a bunch of people, but you would like never want to be a part of anything like that ever again.
And that's what's really cool
you
as
know?
well, because Yaddle, shout out Yaddle because she was great in this episode.
Yeah.
I loved her. Voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard as well, which is really cool.
Fire.
To see someone she really cares about Star Wars.
Yeah,
That's
apparently,
that's really awesome. But she actually steps down from the Jedi Council because of that fact of what happened to Qui-Gon.
And that's like one of the only sacrifices we've seen because like most people just go along with their with their dumb stuff. But she's like, you know what? No, this was bad. He didn't have to die. Something could have been done about
so
Maul.
I'm stepping down. Like it's not my place and stuff. And it also
Shout
shows
out.
Yaddle. She cared about Dooku as well. She has that care for Dooku, which is we see later, of course, in that transition. So that was really cool. Shout out Yaddle there.
Shout out Yaddle.
That was
man.
Awesome.
She was very well written, and
She
I was
was.
not expecting that.
I was not either at all,
For a
and I wasn't
character
expecting that big of a
You've never heard
role.
like a word of? Yeah, she had a huge role in this episode, but it was a necessary
And it was a
one
great
too
role.
because we had to have it somewhere.
We had to have it.
know?
Right? It had to be explained. All right. So then we go off, and Dooku's like, "I'm done." He doesn't even want to go to the funeral, and then he goes to the famous spot on Coruscant where he meets up with, Sidious, Palpatine, however you prefer to call him.
Yeah.
Voiced by Ian McDermott. Shout out,
Legend coming back.
He did, and over here, Palpatine falls into that corruption, that manipulation, of this sense, and he's continuously manipulating him as like he didn't need to die, all this stuff, and then like Maul's dead now, and we can do so much more with this. We can make such a better society, and then Dooku's like, "You're right, we can do better, but how do I do that?" And then of course Yaddle follows him, and then Yaddle jumps in. And then obviously, as soon as she jumps into the place, her fate.
Yeah,
like she
know what's about to happen.
Sidious and him talking.
Yeah, and she's not in any of the other movies.
Right.
My only question is, dude, why would she decide to go? I mean, I assume that he left like during the funeral, right?
Well, no, he didn't go to the funeral.
Yeah, but I'm saying he did that instead, right? So that means she didn't go to the funeral as well.
I guess. I guess
she's.
Knowing her as Yoda's species, and I guess I just hold Yoda's species in a high regard of their Force abilities.
Yeah.
Knowing that and the fact she probably sensed some sort of darkness in his clouded judgment.
Yeah.
That she was like, if he's not going to the funeral,
I wonder
doing?
what's he doing.
So she pursued him and followed him. She was wondering, and of course she overhears the conversation between them that like what he did. He deleted the files for him. He did certain things.
Yeah.
That would progressively lead to what was going to build up to the Clone Wars. And then, she jumps in, which if I was her, I would have dipped.
Yeah, I would have dipped back. I would have told the council.
For sure.
But she decides to get involved.
She does.
With the most powerful. Obviously, she doesn't know who the Sith Lord is.
Right.
But also Dooku, who she probably knows is who's, the superior duelist.
Right.
Like, you're not coming out of that situation alive.
No,
Even if you manage to
no.
beat Dooku, you're still staring at
I guess
Sith Lord.
her whole thought process is because she's known Dooku for so long.
She was trying to go
friends with him.
2v1 against the Sith Lord.
Exactly.
Help
she
me
was
bring
thinking
him
she
in.
could bring Dooku back in.
She almost did.
She
It's a
very
sad
closely
thing.
did.
It's
actually, which is really cool. And they go off into this confrontation with beautiful music again. Shout out.
Yeah. It's the best dialogue. My opinion of the whole
dialogue.
Six
Yaddle
episodes.
the whole time is going, you don't need to, go into this. We can change it right here, right now, which they could have.
Yeah.
And then Palpatine the whole time is like, you don't listen to her, kill her, join me. We can, deliver us.
Prove your loyalty.
Prove your loyalty to me.
And you're thinking that is the exact same thing, that was going on, in episode 3 with Palpatine and Anakin
And the
manipulating
Mace Windu.
him against Dooku, raising up that new apprentice, just as we've seen. Like, this whole thing, bro, is just filled, man. With
And then of
parallel
course he tries to do the
references.
same thing to Luke later on.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work. But
It's just the same thing, but dude, there's so many just beautiful references, man, to Revenge of the Sith, and then his relationship with Anakin.
Right.
Like you said, dude, what you see with Dooku is almost to the T exactly what you see with Anakin.
and it's beautifully written.
Yeah, essentially like literally like the same person.
Right.
Turned away from the Jedi Council, angry about the certain issue,
Right.
manipulated by a Palpatine,
Right.
proved it in some terrible way. It's like the
Yeah.
same tragic
And then
story.
in just of course a last ditch effort, Yaddle's like begging. She's like, don't listen. Come back to me. You'll forget it. We'll
Yeah.
forget everything if you just come back with me, and we'll fight him together. And he chooses Palpatine. And then of course he slams the door on her. At first, I thought she was dead there.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, "Dang!"
After
dark.
the most epic lightsaber battle,
Oh, dude,
music going
sick.
on,
It was sick.
It was fire.
And
It
then
reminded
she-
me of him and Yoda,
Dude, yeah, it
episode
did. In
two.
episode, I bet that was the what they wanted to kind of
Yeah.
show. But then, of course, she lifts the door.
I thought
was
she
like,
was
hype.
dead.
I was like,
She
well,
would
I
have
did too.
died. There were spikes on that thing.
Well,
she would have been.
She probably had a
impaled.
little force bubble. I guess
Yeah,
she did,
maybe.
and then she pushed it back
One
up.
hand too.
She did, and she pushed it back up and gets out of there. She's all drained, of course, from using that much force ability because that's a heavy door. And again, she's like, "Please," and then, man, it got me
Yeah,
so
man.
good. And
It
then
hurt.
he killed her, and then he's
It
of course,
showed it too.
he showed
Well,
her.
She was in the
And
dark. But
then-
she's just begging for her life,
Mhm.
and he just like,
he just like no,
and
and
just
then-
like cuts off her head.
yeah, he
That's-
legit. And then he, of course, again, another parallel between him and Anakin. He gets on his knees
Gets on this knee.
and
Yeah.
he says, I'm pretty sure it was the same dialogue as what Anakin said when he got on his knees after killing Mace Windu. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, "Yes, master." Some
Yes,
master.
What is
or,
your
you know,
bidding?
what do you need me to do, master? Same. I'm pretty sure it was the same
yeah.
dialogue. And of
Same
course,
exact
I
thing,
was
man.
hoping that Sidious would go rise Darth Tyrannus or something like that. But
Ah!
they didn't show that part. But that would have been
Yeah,
dope.
he didn't get called Tyrannus.
He
He
did
was
not.
just Dooku, Master Dooku. What's his first name?
I don't know what his first name is, quite
Like,
honestly.
I don't think anyone knows.
Is it Dooku? No, it might be Dooku.
What's
don't
his
know.
last name?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's always just been Count Dooku.
Yeah,
It obviously
Count
counts
Dooku.
a title.
Yeah, it counts a
like a
title.
king,
And then
so-
no one says Darth Tyrannus.
No, not really many people say Darth Tyrannus, but even though that's his Sith name, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I
guess
don't
you could.
know.
Whatever you want to call him. But yeah, so beautiful,
goat.
amazing episode. That concludes it. And wow, you just see that to see. And honestly, all three episodes played so well in together and even though there was so many time jumps and so many years between them, they molded so perfectly together
Yeah.
to where it shows his deceit, his hatred towards what occurred,
Yeah.
and then his official going to the dark side.
Yeah, beautiful story. Like you just said,
Mhm.
he's turned away by the council. He's turned away by all the injustices,
Right.
the terrible things he see. He's pushed away by this, like you said, the Senate and the council,
Right.
being manipulated by a greater force. And then the one thing that makes him snap is the death of his student. It's a
yeah.
truly, it's like really a Shakespearean tale.
It was
you know?
for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Listen, man, dude's my favorite. I'm just glad they did him justice. I just wish we had more.
Right, and maybe we'll get that.
They
I
given
mean, this could have easily been
6 episodes.
This
Him
literally
6.
could have easily been a literal live action movie trilogy.
Yeah.
if they wanted to go that route.
But
But
truly.
who knows?
But thank you, Filoni, for
Thank you,
what
Dave
you gave us.
Filoni, for sure, for reviving this and bringing us this character. And this was legitimately the first piece of Star Wars that we've ever gotten that takes place before Phantom Menace. So shout out there.
I cannot believe that,
That's
man.
hard to think about.
After all these years, like, by the way, let's just not do anything.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what I want to
canon.
see.
That's
That's
canon,
what I
you
want
know.
to see,
So
man.
it's really cool to say that.
Mm.
All right. So next up, we got to make the transition over to Ahsoka's arc, which was also, we had bias just because we've never seen Dooku like this before. We've never seen this Jedi
Yeah.
arc. But honestly, Ahsoka's arc was just as good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was
man.
phenomenal. Like, certain episodes were better than others, but at the same time, they were all three very well done, very beautiful.
Yeah.
Again, music. Oh, loved it.
And you guys see different aspects.
You got to see and the
versus
build up
Dooku's
of what
story.
was happening to her story, which is amazing. And Ahsoka, to me, anyways, the best female character in Star Wars, and to see that is really cool as well.
Yeah.
So let's get right into episode 1 of the series, which was
Episode
Ahsoka's,
1.
which was titled "Life and Death," which fits really well because of course, you have the final episode of Clone Wars being like victory and death, or that's
Death and life.
death and life. So we'll see. A lot
I'm
of
not
death.
sure what it's titled.
But life and death. And then this episode pretty much just displays her birth and the customs of her home
Of her
and her
people.
traditions, and showing her people where she
Yeah.
comes from.
We've never got to see him before.
No, we're not.
I feel like, there's two things that this episode want to show us. Number
Mhm.
one, the people she came from.
Right.
The whole village, the
Right.
town, her parents, grandparents, their traditions. Number two, the fact that she was force sensitive from a
To
baby.
highlight her force
I
sensibility.
feel like those were the two themes, to be
They were.
honest. Obviously,
were.
it was foreshadowing. I
Mhm.
feel like that, Order 66.
It was.
Entire time with the
It
whole
was.
death themes,
The whole
right?
death themes. Of
But-
course, she ran face to face with death with that tiger-looking thing.
I think
And
it
if-
was huge,
That was huge. It was
man.
scary, man.
That's
And
huge.
of course, through the force and the connection to the force between all living things, she was able to, of course, evade that.
Remind me of Grogu in Mando.
It
1.
did. It did.
Like, literally,
I
bro.
agree.
I thought of that when
I
it
agree.
happened.
It did, and it was beautiful. And of course, one thing is, it's an odd tradition that at 1 year old you take your child on a hunt.
Yeah.
That's an odd tradition, but that's their tradition.
I
so-
mean, I ain't gonna bash it, but I feel like bashing it. Like, what a baby going to cry and use
Right.
the bathroom, man. That gives you a natural disadvantage.
right.
I can't even lie though.
But
bro.
I guess
Like,
that may be the reasoning, is because maybe it's not necessarily a rite of passage for the baby, but a rite of passage
help
for the
improve
mother.
them too.
Because
Yeah, it might be
the
twofold.
fact that a mother can go on a hunt and then protect her child while
providing.
while providing for it, as well as getting into
Facing
these situations
danger,
you may have to
peril.
face. So maybe it's more for the mother than it is for Ahsoka.
And I know that they want their young kids to. It's just weird to make one of your child
Right.
experience death.
But then again, it also
know?
plays. When you have a lot of like indigenous tribes and that kind of stuff, they have a lot of weird traditions. So it kind of plays into that kind
Yeah.
of thing and the rituals of life, which is kind of fascinating to see. More about other worlds and other things, which was cool as well.
Dude,
So
I
enjoyed
almost
that.
cried when her mom killed that deer, dude.
Dude.
I just have a hard time watching animals
And
die.
It is hard. It's hard.
I was like, oh no,
It can be hard, but you got to eat.
yeah, you gotta,
Gotta
eat,
eat.
man.
So
They
that was
just have
really,
a
really cool to
McDonald's.
see. And of course, seeing her force sensibility come from that. And that was pretty much it in episode 1. Pretty much what I enjoyed about this episode was just the beauty of the world that it showed and displayed, the music, and just the world building and the storytelling. I think I just enjoyed it as well.
I like the end
even
scene
though it was
ride
different.
in on the big tiger
yeah.
thing. That was fire.
It was cool. She
I
just
mean,
was-
if you're 1 year old and you was a baby and you riding in on a beast, bro, like, dude, that's instant respect.
I'm like, king!
I know.
I make you queen!
I'm handing that thing a crown.
I'm handing it a crown. You are my
man.
queen.
Whatever you
For
say,
sure.
man.
For sure. All right, let's get into episode 5, which was amazing. I will say, which is
One of the
called,
shorter ones.
It was the shortest of the series.
Was it?
It was
Okay.
the shortest, and it's titled "Practice Makes Perfect." And this episode was so good. And we see in this episode, of course, Ahsoka is right now just training against like little battle bots in the Jedi Temple. And we see Kanan Jarrus, little baby Kanan Jarrus over there with his master, which was really cool to see
Yeah.
as well. But
You saw
anyway,
Yoda and Obi-Wan,
Yoda,
right?
all these
Mace
people.
Windu.
Yoda had the little, or not Yoda, but Obi-Wan had a little mullet going on there.
I
was
know.
like, yeah.
I think, was that him leading into episode? Was this after
no,
episode 2?
this was what's weird to me because in Clone Wars he has short hair, right?
Yeah.
So, and then this happened after the fact of Ahsoka becoming his Padawan, and she only had one lightsaber. And throughout the entirety of Clone Wars, he just had short hair, but he had a mullet there.
Yeah.
That was a little bit weird.
I'm
Maybe
not
they just
sure
wanted to give him
when
a
this
different
took
hairstyle.
place.
I don't know.
Spice
but
him up a little bit.
I can get over that because he,
I still love. He's
I
still
love
beautiful,
Obi-Wan.
man.
Still looks great.
Ryan
you know.
Reynolds is Obi-Wan.
Mm,
Think about that.
Ewan McGregor, though. I mean,
he
he has
kills
my
it.
he has my heart as Obi-Wan. But anyway, we see that she's doing really good training against those battle droid effects.
One saber,
But then,
4 droids.
of course, we see something really amazing, and Anakin's like, "It's not enough."
You want a real test? I'll give you a real
Exactly.
test.
And
Right.
it's like it's just not enough. You can do better. And he puts up her. Of course, this is before she gets her second blade, but we see that later. She has her first blade, and then he puts her up against a whole complete circle of clones.
Yeah.
Shooting stun blast at her, and
In
she
like
has to.
in the kill circle
in the
that
kill
they're
circle.
famous for.
Right.
I mean, that's how they take down.
that's
like,
how they take down, and that's again. I'll talk
That's
about
how
it
they
in a
kill that one homie. On that one planet
minute.
with the 4 arms and the bunch. Of
Oh yeah,
sabers.
dude. Yeah.
Right. They get in a circle around.
Well,
I
that's
don't
how
know his
they
name.
capture him, and then later, of
Yeah.
course, the bad dude.
I forget
yeah.
his name.
So of course, she's training. She's not doing the best, which is expected because
She's
that's a
getting
hard
bodied.
drill.
And that's the freaking 501st, right? That's
The one of the best.
what's his
squads.
name? Rex
and
his squad. Like
Yes,
that's his best.
the
And
best
Anakin
of the
says
best.
it too. He's like, man, if you can like survive these guys, survive anything.
Exactly.
She's like, man, these guys twice,
And then
10
you get
times
that
as good.
build up of it's probably been a couple years or so, and she has the 2 blades, and then
Yeah.
she's doing better. She's still not perfect, but she's doing a lot better. She's blocking it out, doing well. And then, of course, in that build up and seeing all of that, we get this amazing transition to the finale of Clone Wars, and you see that episode where she's like, I hope. We see Rex go, I hope all that training paid off.
Yeah, and
And then-
I didn't know there was a time jump at this point either.
You didn't?
I thought they were gonna go back in the
because
train circle.
she had the look of what she did in the finale.
I didn't know. See
Yeah,
it first.
she's like, I hope all that training paid off. And of course, as we know,
the door is open,
it did.
and it's during Order
Dude,
66.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was just really cool to see that transition. Of course, it ends after that, this episode, but I have to talk about it in depth here because it was amazing. Because if you think back to the Clone Wars season finale and then the final 4 episodes, and then the 3rd episode in this final 4, honestly, those are 4 of the best Star Wars anything. So,
Yeah.
but that 3rd episode, particularly, we see Order 66 in action, and we see her get circled around by the clones and her block every single shot.
Yeah.
Because she knows this time it is life or death 100%.
Yeah, and she's done this drill for years.
She's been preparing, she's been training
Well-
with the 501st, and she's with the 501st, or part of the 501st.
Think about Anakin's side, bro. I can almost guarantee you she was the only one doing this drill.
Mhm.
Imagine if every other Jedi
Dude, yeah.
or had actually, heeded Anakin's teachings or his
Yeah,
unusual
a lot
methods.
more would have survived.
Kiadi Mundi
Yeah.
would be alive.
Oh, yeah.
Ayla Secura, she would be alive.
She would have been alive.
You know?
A lot of them would have been alive.
She
And obviously,
survived because Anakin was just different, man.
Anakin was different. He had
Built
different styles. He had different things he did, and it was really cool to see that Ahsoka. I'm tired. Ahsoka
Same.
legitimately, lived through Order 66 because of Anakin, otherwise known as Darth Vader, and his teachings, who enacted Order 66.
That's crazy.
It's pretty
man.
amazing, and she was able. She completely did that, and we see. I was always wondering, like, in that sense, I just thought it was super dope that she was able to do all that with the 2 lightsabers. But
Yeah.
now we see how
Yeah.
she was trained. She was able
was
to do
trained.
that. She's like, if you can get through the clones, you get through anything.
Yeah.
And she did it.
Man, the dialogue honestly was the best
It
part.
was so
The
good.
dialogue
And
you
the
see her
transition
training, yeah.
to the, of course, those episodes and seeing,
And
like,
then
I hope that training paid off. And
Yeah.
it did.
I hope that training
And it
pays
was
off.
I love
I was
Rex.
like, oh, dude, that moment.
Dude, it's
hard,
so
man.
beautiful. It went
Hit
hard. So such a great
Uh.
episode. Loved that. Loved everything that they accomplished in that. All right, then that brings us to episode 6, which is titled Resolve. And man, I must say, this episode was again another one that was so
This
flippin' good.
episode was very similar to Obi-Wan episode 1. I think.
Yeah, it was. It had
Dealing
very
with
similarities,
guilt, dealing with your
Right.
past,
Right, but
getting
it was-
back into action.
but it was very, very good. I mean, of course, we see right off the bat, we see what happens right after the finale of Clone Wars. And what she does is she decides, right off the bat, she hears about Padme's death. She decides she's got to go.
Yeah,
She got her friend. She got to
Honestly,
go to the
dude,
funeral.
Bail Organa, man, he's a legend.
Dude, for sure a legend.
He's such like a wholesome guy.
Mhm.
He offers her help, gives her comms.
Yes.
He's like, I understand you don't want to, be involved. But if you do, give me a ring.
Whatever you need, I'm there
she
for you.
dips
And
on
I
him.
was like, yes. I was like, very good. And he does help later. But of course, her going to Padme's funeral and seeing that she was there during that scene of Revenge of the Sith
Yeah.
is just so cool to think about and see that she went to that and was able to be a part of that. And of
Surprised
course,
nobody recognized her.
well, she had the
She
was
had
all
a
hooded up.
hood.
She was all hooded
She had
up.
the baseball cap. She'd be a Marvel character.
Dude, for sure. Captain America. All right. So, but she was met by Senator Organa, like we said. And they said we can contact whenever. She meets back up with Rex, and then they travel out. And then I guess, I don't know how long of a time jump occurred after this time.
She
It could
still
have
looks
been.
the exact same.
She does, but then again, I mean, a couple years isn't going to be affected that. So I don't know if it's been a couple years or a year or something like that. Probably a year, if I had to guess,
probably.
or a year and
What
a
happened
half.
to her lightsabers, man?
She left them on that planet.
That's right. She buried them, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
eventually
I
she
was
gets some
wondering.
later, but we don't see that yet.
Mm.
So she's, we see her there. She's going to work. She's
on
working
a
in a normal
farming
job.
planet.
She's
looks
on a
like.
farming planet, hiding away like normal, like most Jedi do during Order 66. And then on this planet, she's difference between her and Obi-Wan is like almost completely unwilling to use his abilities, but she's like I gotta save this person. Like,
Dude,
I
that
really
was
wanna help.
freaking Magneto in Apocalypse. Literally the exact same
saving-
thing.
It was
It was
only,
something
you know,
falling on a coworker.
He ended up massacring everybody else.
Well, they killed his family.
Well, before that, he ended up like killing a bunch of the people in there. So, but
Yeah, dude, he comes back in there and he's like, you know what? And he kills
it's
everybody.
like, screw y'all.
I can't blame
I
him.
shouldn't
Who
help y'all.
ratted me out?
Exactly.
But it was the exact same thing, in the heat of the moment, you can't deny who you really are.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, those hay bales, I doubt they would have killed the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, still, you don't know that going in.
Exactly. I mean, and it was cool to see that perspective of, what would you do in a sense of seeing a Jedi save them, and then would you call the Empire and know that you could be in the good graces and possibly get a reward, or would you just shut up and be quiet about it? We always want to say we shut up and be quiet about it, but when you're starving,
And when you're suffering,
what would
like
you do?
that, man.
Exactly.
But
What
at the
would you
same
do?
time, there's no guarantee with
Exactly.
them. But there's no guarantee that the Jedi will protect you either.
Mm-mm.
They're looking out for their best interests.
Right.
But like I see, it was just a natural gut instinct for her.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Inquisitors end up coming, or an Inquisitor coming. And this Inquisitor, I must say, this is my favorite look I've ever seen of an Inquisitor.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I think this is the fifth, or not the fifth, but the sixth brother. I think this was his title.
Sixth brother.
The sixth brother. And he was menace, man. He had that triangle mask and he was scary. And
He wasn't very good at fighting.
No,
but
which
he
we
was
see
scary.
that. But he was scary. And he was like, so he recognized her. He's like Ahsoka Tano. So I wonder if it was like one of the Jedi Temple Guards, like a lot of the Inquisitors were Jedi
I wonder,
Temple Guards.
he's like,
So
when he said, could it be? I was like, oh.
Ahsoka Tano. I was like, oh.
That part was crazy.
It was crazy.
Also, man, you gotta talk about the little homie, man. Freaking sold out the entire village.
Mhm.
Literally everybody died except for his family and three
Right.
people.
Right.
Like, he just came and killed everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Inquisitor, like anybody harboring a Jedi, like, he was a brutal Inquisitor, man. He was like, I don't care about any of them. I just want her. I want to bring her towards me. You see fires, and maybe that'll bring her, we get her to come faster than before because she was off working.
Yeah, she was off like delivering the
And she
hay
did,
bales
and
with
they
the
came
daughter.
back, and he was waiting on her. And of course,
You
they
said
had,
there was a Jedi.
and it was like, I did.
Please, there is a Jedi.
Yes. And then she shows up, and they fight, and they have the confrontation, and it was really quick. Like, I was like, holy
It
cow.
reminded me of Rebels, Obi-Wan versus Maul.
It was very, it
Couple
was good.
quick moments.
It was good. And this
done.
fight, like, even though it was so quick and fast, it was so good. And she didn't even have a lightsaber.
Yeah.
She just caught it, used the force to put it back in.
Yeah.
And then, well, no, she didn't. Well, she put one in and then used it. She just cut his head off.
I know. I was like, what?
Ahsoka, man.
Well, like, it doesn't even show his head. Like, the thing like just collapses into the ground. Like, there's no head.
Yeah, like the mask falls.
I mean, she dodges
It is
two
animated.
things. She catches the lightsaber, kicks him, and
Yeah.
then cuts off his head. I was like, bro, what?
Right off the bat.
I've never seen her do that with like another,
And we
that
got to
was
remember, though,
crazy.
she did forsake the Jedi, path. I mean, she's no
Yeah.
longer a Jedi. She's technically a great
She's
Jedi.
protecting the
So,
people there.
She's protecting the people there. She's like, I ain't dealing with this. I'm just going to end it quickly. And she does it, and it was phenomenal. And of course, she's like, she calls Bell back up, which was great. And then, saves their people, even though the guy betrayed her and stuff. Which was,
To be honest, man, I was kind of unhappy because the dude that was responsible for the whole town's death said,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm sorry." And you know what they tell him? They tell him, "I know, like literally, it's okay." Dude, I was so mad. I was like, "You should have left him on that planet, man."
well, like I said before,
Like, really,
like I said earlier,
he's the reason they died,
right.
and they just forgive him like that.
Right. Well, like I said earlier, I mean, this is somebody who you have that choice of what are you going to do when you're suffering, and you have a possible way of getting possible money, possible way out of this work, a way out of this land. What would you do in this situation? And again, like, we don't really know what we would do. But yeah, so that, I mean,
Bro, I would have left him
and-
there. I would have killed him too, low key.
but honestly though, like, it shows that, good people, there at the time are there. So that was cool in the sense there. So that was how it ends. And of course, after this, Bell Organa says, you still looking for somebody? And then she's like, I think I'm ready to help out. And this, of course, leads to her becoming Volcrum to help out with the Rebel Alliance. That was really cool as well to see that build up as well. We see in Star Wars Rebels, and then eventually we'll see in the Ahsoka series coming next year, which I'm super hyped for as well, because I think it'll be very good.
Hi, baby.
So overall, very fantastic show.
Yeah.
Tells the Jedi.
Amazing.
Holy cow. I really, really hope we get more of this show
We
and
need
with
it.
other Jedi.
We need
But
it.
honestly, like it needs
We
to be
need it.
a series, not just shorts. It needs to be seasons. It
They
needs to be.
deserve more.
It deserves so
man.
much more, and I think it could
More.
be so much better. But it was great nonetheless. So let's get into ranking the episodes. I guess we'll go least favorite to favorite. I guess
Alright.
that's how we'll do. Do you want to start us off with
Yeah.
all
My
of them?
least favorite.
Yeah,
They're all good.
they're all good. But
this
you know,
is-
some are
this is
we
how I
like
felt.
better than.
I feel like the worst and my least favorite to
I
differentiate.
feel like worst is wrong. I feel like just the least best is probably
the,
better
Yeah,
terminology.
the least best. There's better ones made.
Yes,
but that's not
yes.
taking anything
Right,
away from how good it was.
Right.
But at the bottom, I think it's the first Ahsoka one,
Yes,
Life and
yeah,
Death. I mean,
yeah.
like, see, there's just not terribly much. It's a beautiful episode. You know,
Mhm.
we get to see themes of obviously the life and death. We get to see her. You know, I mean, it's obvious all Jedi are force sensitive, really.
Right.
As a kid, but like I said, it's probably
Right.
the bottom of the pack.
I agree. That's what I have as well. Is the first episode of Ahsoka's Life and Death. I mean, this one was still a great episode and great effects, but compared to the other episodes,
Yeah,
it's just
doesn't
not
match
the
up.
same level.
Yeah,
So that was I agree as well.
kick us off with number 5.
All right, I'll kick us off with the next one. I feel like I probably have the second Ahsoka episode. Practice makes perfect. Still a
Yeah.
great episode, but it was just her practicing, so it doesn't again compare to like the other stuff that we see within the other episodes. Still a great episode and seeing what how she trained to survive Order 66. But I would say that would be next.
Yeah, and my number 5, I have the actually third Ahsoka one.
Really.
I mean, I guess the whole theme of, like we said, guilt and getting back into action. We've seen before in Obi-Wan
Mhm.
episode 1. It was really cool to see her, square off with an Inquisitor. But that fight was cool. It was just shorter. But I really do feel like episode 2 is better in that
Okay.
regard than there were. So I have Ahsoka number 3 as my number 5 spot.
Okay. All right, you go ahead with your number 4.
My number 4, I have the first Dooku episode.
Okay.
Not too much happened. We just get to see the him with his I pretend we get to see him, start to distrust the
Mhm.
Senate, stop, kind of blindly following them. And it was cool to see him, really snap. So I got Dooku 1 in my 4th spot.
Okay. In my 4th spot, I have the Dooku episode 3 choices.
Yeah.
With him and Windu. Still, again, another it was a phenomenal episode. But some of the other ones I just think stacked up better.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed more compared to this one.
All right.
All right, and then that brings me to my number was it 3 spot?
Yeah, number 3.
Number 3 spot, and that would be oh my goodness. Okay. This gets a little bit of hard. I'm gonna say probably episode 2 Justice
Okay.
for the Dooku arc. Again, I loved it, but and just not any but like just seeing the young Jedi Knight Dooku and then Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn together for the first time ever.
Yeah. Crazy.
Was really cool to me.
Yeah.
And to see what they did in the village and his descent and his his hatred for some of the stuff going on, I really liked it. So
Yeah.
that's my 3rd.
In my number 3 spot, I got the second Ahsoka episode.
Mhm.
This is one of my favorites. I know you touched on it being simple, but that's part of why I liked it so
Right,
much. And
right.
I think this episode showed more about Anakin than it did anybody else.
Mm.
I feel like it just validated his point the entire time.
Right.
I feel bad that no one ever really listened to him, but it was because of his unique methodology, his ideas, that Ahsoka survives. And just seeing those time jumps, the beginning one to when she's trained with 2
Right.
lightsabers, to when she steps out in Order 66 and
Right.
moves fast, it's well done, it's concrete, and it just hits hard. So
No, I understand.
I got number 3. Number 2, I'm putting in Dooku, his second episode.
Mhm.
Like I said, it was really cool seeing with Mace Windu.
choices.
Yeah. He starts to, distrust the council, whatnot going on there. Really cool to see him bowed out with Mace Windu. And just to see him just diligently seek the truth and what really happened. So just showing that he really cares. So that's my number 2.
All right. So for my number 2, I have Ahsoka's last episode, Resolve.
Really, number 2?
Number 2. I love this episode because you see the scenes from Revenge of the Sith. It's during Revenge of the Sith. You see what happened to her
Yeah.
after the Clone Wars finale, and then what she did and her time after the fact of Order 66, what she was doing in that time, and then having to go up against that Inquisitor and then dealing with all of those effects and things. So it was just I love this episode. I think it was very well done, very very good. So I have it at number 2. All right, so that brings me. I guess I'll start off with the number one
one,
spot.
baby.
And speaking for the both of us, both of our favorite episode, which is of course the third and final, which is the fourth episode of the series, Count Dooku arc episode, which is the Sith Lord. Holy cow. My personal favorite of the series, for sure. Our personal favorite of the series. This episode was the epitome of perfect. Some of the best Star Wars we've ever gotten. It's up there comparatively with the Clone Wars finale, with Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One finale, all of that.
It's up there.
It's up there, for sure. I mean, this whole series is, but that one specifically stands out as definitely one of the best. You see, of course, we have the talented voice cast with Liam Neeson, Ian McDermott, Bryce Dallas Howard, all in it. The storytelling between Dooku and and what he goes to being manipulated by Palpatine, and seeing the transition between him to Anakin, and having those ideas and stuff, and then of course Qui-Gon, his death and the repercussions of that death, and then the Yaddle fight. Just such a beautiful and amazing episode.
Yeah, look, man. Obviously, like you said, I have it number one too. It's one of the best pieces of Star Wars I've ever seen, and I wasn't expecting that going in.
Right.
But my absolute favorite thing about this episode was just seeing all the parallels with Anakin, because he's probably my second favorite character. But just seeing how they were both equally manipulated, how they both suffered tragic losses, how they both went through this cycle of distrusting the Council and the Senate and being distrusted back by them. It was just heartbreaking, man. And you're talking about throwing that in 15 minutes. I mean, and we're seeing live
for such a short amount of time. Holy cow.
We're seeing live action 45, 50-minute episodes that do absolutely nothing to us.
Exactly.
But they're like, here's 15 minutes of just heart, wrenching content.
Beautiful.
And beautiful.
Not a wasted moment.
The stories with Yaddle, and Dooku in the middle, and Palpatine, and the pull between good and evil, and him trying to make things right, but choosing that wrong route, and not really knowing where it's gonna end up. It's heartbreaking. This episode was phenomenal, man. I really can't say enough about it.
I agree. I
loved
completely agree. All right, to get to the ranking out of 10, it's hard to rank it because it's a series of shorts. So it's it's hard to rank it and stuff comparatively, because you can't really compare it to like movies and show. But then again, it does provide us with some of the best canon pieces of Star Wars I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And from me personally standpoint, and I'll start us off with the ranking. I had no flaws with the entirety of the series. I enjoyed every single episode. And I wouldn't have changed a thing. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. It was definitely 10 out of 10.
Is that your first 10 out of 10?
No. I mean, well, for this kind of thing it is, but I would give it a 10 out of 10. I mean, there's just nothing I could do to make it, any less perfect, not even with recency bias. I mean, it was so good, to the fact that there's just nothing I would have changed.
Yeah. Y'all know I like to rank pretty harshly, but even my inner critic could not find too much wrong with the show. I guess my only flaw is some parts of the episode, one, and just wishing it was a little bit longer. But all in all, I'm gonna give it one of my higher scores. I'm gonna give it 8.5.
You give it 8.5?
Yeah, 8.5. It definitely borders on 9. I've never given anything a 9. I don't believe.
You have.
I have given a 9. Suicide Squad.
You gave Suicide Squad 9. You gave Peacemaker 9. You gave WandaVision a 9.
I do think they are almost at the same. Listen, if I gave decibels, this would be more like a 0.8, 0.9. It's almost a 9, but I'm not gonna put it there just yet. So I'm gonna settle with 8.5. But listen, it's fluid. It might change, but that doesn't change the fact that that's still my favorite Star Wars piece I've ever probably seen in like the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, so I completely agree. And I mean, it was just so good. And I give it a 10. Again, I'm very optimistic, and I very just enjoy things so much when it comes to that, and I'm not afraid to give it 10 out. And I'm giving this a 10 because I think it's worthy of that. So you heard it here first.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, let us know about giving us a review and a download. Our podcast, Here's in the Moment, is available everywhere, so check us out. We're on Spotify, Google, Amazon, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. If you want to stay up to date with all of our announcements and updates, check out our socials. We have a TikTok, Here's the Moment, with an extra T. Then Here's in the Moment on Instagram. We have a ton of previous episodes. And speaking of, our latest episode was latest superhero news, I believe. Or Andor episode 7. 8. Never mind, it's 8. Dude, I get lost with all the episodes. There's a lot of episodes, and we cover a lot of stuff. So you should definitely check it out, is what I'm saying.
All right. We just want to thank y'all for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.